Welcome to the podcast, where a passion meets purpose and limits are challenged. I'm your host, Eleonora Gendelman. Let's start bending reality. Have you ever stopped and asked yourself, what if my current reality isn't actually real? What if it's simply the accumulation of every belief, every experience, every story, every piece of conditioning that I have collected throughout my life? And what if changing my life doesn't begin by changing what's happening around me? What if it begins by changing who I believe myself to be? Welcome to Bending Reality. I'm Eleonora, and every week we explore the intersection between neuroscience, psychology, embodiment, performance, and consciousness. Because I truly believe that once we understand how our mind, body, and nervous system work together, we begin to realize that we are capable of far more than we ever imagined. Today's episode is about identity, because your identity creates your reality, not the other way around. I spent 10 years working in the fashion industry. From the outside, it looked exciting. New countries, incredible people, beautiful clothes, creative projects. And I genuinely loved that chapter of my life. It taught me creativity, it taught me discipline, it taught me resilience. But perhaps the greatest lesson it taught me was this. It's okay to outgrow a version of yourself. Sometimes we stay because we've invested so much time. Sometimes we stay because other people expect us to. Sometimes we stay because we are afraid to begin again. But one of the bravest things you can ever do is admit that a chapter has fulfilled its purpose. You don't have to stay loyal to a life that no longer feels aligned. You can love a chapter, be grateful for it, and still choose to turn the page. I remember leaving London to travel, believing that maybe what I needed was simply a different environment, a different country, different people, different weather, different experiences. And for a while, it felt exciting until I realized I had changed my circumstances, but I had brought my mind with me. The same thoughts, the same patterns, the same internal conversations. And that's when you understand you cannot escape yourself. Wherever you go, there you are. I stopped trying to redesign my life from the outside, and I became curious about redesigning it from the inside. Every second, your brain receives millions of pieces of information, yet you consciously notice only a tiny fraction. Why? Because your brain has a filtering system called the reticular activating system. Its job isn't to show you reality. Its job is to show you what it believes is important. If you've ever bought a new phone and suddenly you started seeing that same model everywhere, the phones didn't suddenly appear. Your attention changed. The exact same thing happens with opportunities, relationships, success, failure, possibility. If your identity says, I am always unlucky, your brain will continuously collect evidence to support that story. If your identity says, I'm someone who learns, your brain begins collecting completely different evidence. The world hasn't changed. Your perception has. This is why two people can experience the exact same situation and create completely different meanings. One sees rejection, the other sees redirection. One sees failure, the other sees feedback. One sees an ending, the other sees an invitation to evolve. Reality didn't change. Identity did. I have seen this over and over again through my coaching. Many of my clients do not come to me because they want a handstand or because they want better nutrition or because they want to move better. They come because something inside them quietly whispers, this isn't it. I know there is more. I know I am capable of more. Often they don't even know exactly what they want, but they know something feels out of alignment. And one of the most beautiful parts of coaching isn't giving people answers. It's helping them reconnect with themselves, helping them discover their own values, helping them realize that they are allowed to choose a different life. Even if they are the first person in their family, even if they are the first in their culture, even if nobody around them understands. I have watched people become leaders simply because they stopped waiting for permission. Not because fear disappeared, but because something became more important than fear. Living authentically, creating a life that actually feels like theirs. That transformation always starts with identity. Handstands taught me exactly the same lesson. When I first started teaching inversions and handstands, students started asking me for handstand variations and transitions that I couldn't even do myself. At first, I thought, I need to know everything. But instead of seeing it as pressure, I saw it as invitation, an opportunity to grow alongside my students, to experiment, to fall, to learn, to create systems, to discover new ways of teaching while I was still becoming the person capable of teaching them. My identity changed before my ability did. I became someone committed to learning, and eventually the skill caught up. I think we often believe confidence comes after success. But more often, confidence comes from deciding who we are becoming, long before we have evidence. That's why embodiment matters so much. Your body constantly reinforces your identity. Notice your posture when you're anxious. Your breathing becomes shallow, your shoulders round forward, your jaw tightens, your vision narrows. Your nervous system prepares for survival. Now, compare that with moments when you feel calm, curious, safe, present. Your breathing changes, your posture changes, your perception changes, your decisions change. This is why I say so often, breath changes everything. Because breath is one of the fastest ways we can communicate with the nervous system. When in doubt, breathe. Create space, listen, adjust, respond instead of reacting. One of the most profound experiences of my life was spending 10 days in complete silence during a Vipassana meditation course. No phone, no conversations, no music, no reading, no writing, just observation. And something extraordinary happened. I began noticing the difference between noise and signal. I realized that thoughts are constantly appearing, emotions are constantly moving, sensations are constantly changing, but I don't have to become every thought. I don't have to react to every emotion. I don't have to believe every story my mind creates. There's space between what happens and how I choose to respond. That space is where freedom lives. And perhaps that's what bending reality really means. Not controlling life, not forcing outcomes, not pretending challenges do not exist, but expanding your awareness enough to recognize that you always have a choice in who you become in response to them. So I would love to leave you with 3 questions today. Who have I been believing myself to be? Who do I actually want to become? And what is one decision that version of me would make today? Because your life changes twice. First internally, then externally. Before you continue with your day, take one slow breath. Notice your posture. Relax your shoulders, soften your jaw, take another breath, and ask yourself, what identity am I practicing today? Thank you for spending this time with me. If this episode resonated with you, I would love for you to share it with someone who needs to hear it. And until next time, keep bending your reality. If you found this episode valuable, please rate, review, and share with someone who would benefit as well. Thank you for choosing yourself, doing the work, and creating change. Keep living with purpose.